say to the main show, right? We're going to talk about voting no on 1639. A couple of personalities that you've met before, one for sure, one if you went to the Olympic conference. Our first, they're going to share the table together, and we're going to give them 10 minutes each, and then we're going to allow you to ask some questions. So you've got a pen or a pencil, and I encourage you to jot down your question on a piece of paper so that when the time comes, one of our board can come around with a microphone and you can ask it promptly. Please welcome first the Executive Director of the Kitsap Rifle and Revolver Club, Mr. Marcus Clark. Firearms instructor, highly experienced and knowledge in this field. Next, the organizer and driver of SecureSchoolChoice.org. That was a prior initiative. A PCO out of Gorst. By the way, I should say a Republican PCO out of the Gorst, right? Mr. Tyler Miller, and he's walked out. And so, short of having this directly moderated, we're just going to let Marcus start first, and we're going to let them be self-timing if we can, but they know the drill. If I get up and start hovering, it's time. Okay? So, please, Marcus.
Good evening, folks. Thank you for coming tonight. The topic that we're going to be discussing, Initiative 1639, is of extreme importance and is unlike any that I have seen thrown at this state in quite some time. Initiative 1639 is based on a lie. When you get in and read the intent, and I have a copy here for anyone that's interested in it, it all talks about gun violence, and it renames firearms, certain firearms, as semi-automatic assault rifles, and talks about how many people have lost, hundreds of lives have been lost with semi-automatic assault rifles. That's a lie, because there is no such thing as a semi-automatic assault rifle. And in fact, I think if I had the opportunity to argue in front of a judge, if I was going into court to defend something, I would have them remove the word assault as inflammatory, because I have personally never seen a rifle assault anybody. It hasn't happened. I've set them on tables, I've slapped them, I've fallen in the dirt with them, I told one its mama was a cannon, and it didn't do anything. We are simply talking about people control, and 1639 is something that it's not just important for you to vote no on. It is important for each one of you to go out and get 10 people that will tell you, I will vote no on it, and tell them to go tell 10 more. How many remember, was it No on 676 campaign, back to the trigger lock issue years ago, 25, 30 years ago now? That was a very successful campaign. And part of the reason 594 passed was because people muddied the water and tried to come up with something, and people didn't know which one to vote yes for or which one to vote no on. The message here is quite simple. Vote no on 1639. Semi-automatic assault rifles are specifically designed to kill quickly and efficiently. Wait a minute, I've been a Washington State Hunter Education Chief Instructor. I know what I've been in the military. I was assigned as an MP in Fort Lawton. I know what an assault rifle is. And the beam counters, when you actually know the difference between an assault rifle and a hunting rifle, what does a hunter want to do when it shoots at an animal? It wants to dispatch it quickly and humanely. To kill quickly and efficiently. That's what a hunting rifle's designed for. If this goes through based on this language, what happens when they get a hold of that? So much for your 30-30, which has efficiently and quickly killed more deer probably than any other single rifle in this country. Again, it's premised on gun violence. There's only one or two cases that it mentions, one in Mukilteo and one in Tacoma. Neither one of them, by the way, would have could have been prevented by the type of ordinance that we're seeing here. One of the things they throw out, they take a couple of pages to actually talk about their intent and what it's all about. And when people start getting wordy about things like that, you know that they're just wanting to muddy the water all the more. Studies, this makes sense. It says, studies show that 18 to 20-year-olds commit a disproportionate number of firearm homicides. Sound like gang members to you, or something in that? And you know, most of them aren't using assault rifles. One of the scary terms that they put into the ordinance is an enhanced background check. Because an enhanced background check includes the surrendering of all your medical privacy to your records. It's totally surrendered as soon as you go to apply to purchase a semi-automatic handgun or a semi-automatic rifle, what they're calling a semi-automatic assault rifle. And the state can create a database. They may purge the information, but do you really think once they get a hold of your medical records that they're safe? I mean, it's bad enough as it is right now with the electronic systems and people hacking everything they can. But when it comes to the databases of the state, they have proven that they cannot be trusted. I received a notice some time ago that as a veteran, all my records, somebody hacked them and got them. Again, you will lose this enhanced background check. After all, you know, we all are for wanting to know that people that have a firearm are decent folks, right? Who's going to draw the line? Government? I saw something today just before I left to come here. It said, in Facebook we trust. Wow. I don't know about you all, but I like to shoot. I like to have a good time with firearms, and people don't seem to realize that the 99.9% plus of all firearms ever produced and all ammunition ever produced will never be used in a violent manner or towards anybody in that way. Most of it's shot at places like...
In what year? What year?
1787.
1787.
But it did not include the Bill of Rights yet.
Okay, there we go.
It's actually 1789 it was signed. The convention started in 1787, went through the spring of 1788, final ratification occurred in 1789.
Okay, so we have a host of historians in the room that are going to keep us all straight. And for those of you, how many of you have what has been commonly called in the press, that book? You know what I'm talking about? That book. You know, rely on that book and it will get us through our cause. So, I have promised a visitor that we have tonight, Vice President of South Kitsap School Supporters, to talk about the tax issue for 5 minutes. So I'm going to give him a little break on the 2-minute rule. He's come in from Port Orchard. Please welcome Jerry Austin, who's going to talk about taxes.
Thanks, Mr. Walker. Thanks to all you all for giving me 5 minutes tonight. I'm not going to be shy about while I'm here. I'm here to talk about taxes. 2 measures in particular, the South Kitsap School District is proposing on the November ballot. Now, I know that your group stands for taxing up already. I know you don't typically support things like this. However, I applaud this group for putting pressure on our government to make sure that our taxes are reasonable, limited, and accountable. I completely agree with you guys on that. And these measures are both limited and accountable. The South Kitsap School District is proposing a capital bond and levy on the November ballot. The levy will provide $22 million over 4 years to upgrade, repair, and maintain our buildings. It's been 30 years since we passed capital funding in our district. And our youngest school is 28 years old. The bond will provide $184 million over 25 years for a second high school, which our district badly needs. These measures are accountable. We know exactly what they will be used for. They're not general or discretionary. They're verifiably accountable and will provide a direct local benefit. They're also limited. Both the amount and the duration are defined up front. So what does that mean? That means that if your property values go up, your tax rate will go down. You pay the same amount. The amount is set up front. When more homes are built and more people move here, the cost of the rest of us goes down because more of us are paying off that set amount. And when they're done, they'll expire. And get this, the local tax rate won't increase if we pass both of these measures. Now I see the skepticism out there, right? How is this possible? How can we pass a bond on the levy and not increase the local tax rate? Well, our taxes went up a lot this year due to the Cleary decision, right? We all got the statement. We're going to get another one here next month. But next year, the settlement caps our local levy rate at $1.50 per $1,000 of assessed value. Voters approved a rate of $3.24 just a year and a half ago. So that means if we do nothing, yeah, the rate goes down $1.74. But the combined cost of both of these measures is $1.74. So because the state is now funding their share of the operations of our schools, we finally have an opportunity to take care of facilities without increasing the local tax rate. So it's been 30 years since we passed a bond in South Kitsap. We have the largest high school in the state. Now there's a lot of folks out there saying that we manufactured a crisis by moving the 9th graders up. Look, that's just not true. We're out of room in the elementary schools. I served on the most recent boundary review committee that met last fall. We looked at classroom availability and populations and projections in all of our buildings. We're out of room. That's the reality. And the committee before me that made this decision, or recommended this decision, I should say, the board makes the decisions, they were faced with the reality of it being 30 years since they passed a bond, and the committee rightly chose to protect the most vulnerable students and to provide the smaller class sizes and all-day in kindergarten that our kids deserve. The 9th graders also perform better academically in the high school. That's why 9th graders were moved up. This wasn't a grand conspiracy at all. This is just reality. It's the reality of it being 30 years since we passed capital funding in the South Kitsap School District. We also hear about how enrollment keeps declining. We have all these little kids, but not very many of them stick around until high school. Gee, I wonder why. I know 2 families who have moved away this summer, families that my children went to preschool with. That's a drain on our economy. Right as their kids are getting older, right as they reestablish dual incomes, right when their kids aren't eating off the kids' menu in the restaurants anymore, they're leaving. We have a ton of vacant commercial space down in South Kitsap. Is it any surprise that people are hesitant to invest in our community when we keep showing over and over again that we won't invest in ourselves? And lastly, I want to finish on the issue of trust, because this is something else I hear a lot of people say. We just can't trust the district. I really dug hard on this. I talked to a lot of people to try to figure out where this idea comes from. It's firmly rooted in a lot of misinformation, and a lot of misunderstanding. In the last year, while I've been advocating for these measures, I've been to a lot of school board meetings, and I've seen firsthand how the district has listened and how these measures are different than what we've done in the past. In the past, we've lumped capital improvements, new security upgrades, all of that together with the construction of a second high school in one giant mega bond. Well, they failed 7 times now. This time, we broke it out into 2 measures, a capital levy, which is a smaller package to give voters the choice to support our existing buildings while not supporting the construction of a second high school. They also heard complaints about the second high school being a STEM high school. We heard a lot of people say it was a boutique high school for the people out in McCormick Woods. This time, the high school is just a comprehensive high school. And that high school won't serve just McCormick Woods at all. It'll serve the entire area west of 16, plus a good portion of the southern portion of the district, including Burley, Glenwood, and even Olallah. Where that line's drawn, who knows, because it's going to be a different situation 4 years from now. But it's going to hold just as many kids as the existing high school does. It's going to be just a high school, nothing special, nothing fancy. They also heard complaints that the 30-year bond, which was the last measure that we put up, we paid too much in interest on it. We also tried a 20-year bond recently. People said that the payment was too high on that one. This time the district's tried to find a sweet spot at a 25-year bond. And then lastly, they've heard complaints about special elections and how much they cost to run, and whether or not that's a good use of our tax dollars. One measure on one ballot and one election. That's why we put it on the November ballot this time, because we want to get this out in front of as many people as affordably as we can. This isn't a need that's going away. We're going to keep trying if we don't get it this time, but we're going to use your tax dollars responsibly for this. So 30 years ago, people thought if we stopped building schools, growth would stop. It didn't. This need's real. It's not going away. Private property owners have rights to develop their properties, people have rights to move here. The longer we wait, the more expensive it gets. And we can do this year without raising the local tax rate. Finally, my son's in 6th grade, my daughter's in 4th. They won't be attending the new high school. But I'm still here tonight to ask for your support because we all benefit from this. My children need a reasonably sized high school just as much as every other kid in the district. We all benefit. So I encourage you guys to vote yes on both of these measures, and I ask your organization here for your endorsement. And at the very least, I hope that I convinced you not to be firmly against this measure. So again, thank you guys for having me here tonight. God bless.
Thank you, Jerry. And, you know, if you think about it, it takes a little bit of extra courage to come and talk taxes to a two-party group. So I'm a little bit buoyed by his confidence in some of what he has talked about. He's going to be around a while, is that correct?
I can be, yeah.
And so after the meeting tonight, I encourage you to ask him very specific questions and see what you think about his quest for this levy in the South District. Now, as they say, to the main show, right? We're going to talk about voting no on 1639. A couple of personalities that you've met before, one for sure, one if you went to the Olympic Conference. Our first, they're going to share the table together, and we're going to give them 10 minutes each, and then we're going to allow you to ask some questions. So you've got a pen or a pencil, and I encourage you to jot down your question on a piece of paper so that when the time comes, one of our board can come around with a microphone and you can ask it promptly. Please welcome first the Executive Director of the Kitsap Rifle and Revolver Club, Mr. Marcus Clark. Firearms instructor, highly experienced and knowledgeable in this field. Next, the organizer and driver of SecureSchoolChoice.org. That was a prior initiative. A PCO out of the Gorst. By the way, I should say a Republican PCO out of the Gorst, right? Mr. Tyler Miller, and he's walked out here. And so, short of having this directly moderated, we're just going to let Marcus start first, and we're going to let them be self-timing if we can, but they know the drill. If I get up and start hovering, it's time. Okay? So, please, Marcus.
Good evening, folks. Thank you for coming tonight. The topic that we're going to be discussing, Initiative 1639, is of extreme importance and is unlike any that I have seen thrown at this state in quite some time. Initiative 1639 is based on a lie. When you get in and read the intent, and I have a copy here for anyone that's interested in it, it all talks about gun violence, and it renames firearms, certain firearms, as semi-automatic assault rifles, and talks about how many people have lost, hundreds of lives have been lost with semi-automatic assault rifles. That's a lie, because there is no such thing as a semi-automatic assault rifle. And in fact, I think if I had the opportunity to argue in front of a judge, if I was going into court to defend something, I would have them remove the word assault as inflammatory. Because I have personally never seen a rifle assault anybody. It hasn't happened. I've set them on tables, I've slapped them, I've fallen in the dirt with them, I told one its mama was a cannon, and it didn't do anything. We are simply talking about people control. And 1639 is something that it's not just important for you to vote no on. It is important for each one of you to go out and get 10 people that will tell you, I will vote no on it, and tell them to go tell 10 more. How many remember, was it No on 676 campaign, back to the trigger lock issue years ago, 25, 30 years ago now? That was a very successful campaign. And part of the reason 594 passed was because people muddied the water and tried to come up with something, and people didn't know which one to vote yes for or which one to vote no on. The message here is quite simple. vote no on 1639. Semi-automatic assault rifles are specifically designed to kill quickly and efficiently. Wait a minute, I've been a Washington State Hunter Education Chief Instructor. I know what I've been in the military. I was assigned as an MP in Fort Lawton. I know what an assault rifle is. And the beam counters, when you actually know the difference between an assault rifle and a hunting rifle, what does a hunter want to do when it shoots at an animal? It wants to dispatch it quickly and humanely. To kill quickly and efficiently. That's what a hunting rifle's designed for. If this goes through based on this language, what happens when they get a hold of that? So much for your 30-30, which has efficiently and quickly killed more deer probably than any other single rifle in this country. Again, it's premised on gun violence. There's only one or two cases that it mentions, one in Mukilteo and one in Tacoma. Neither one of them, by the way, would have could have been prevented by the type of ordinance that we're seeing here. One of the things they throw out, they take a couple of pages to actually talk about their intent and what it's all about. And when people start getting wordy about things like that, you know that they're just wanting to muddy the water all the more. Studies, this makes sense. It says, studies show that 18 to 20-year-olds commit a disproportionate number of firearm homicides. Sound like gang members to you or something in that? And you know most of them aren't using assault rifles. One of the scary terms that they put into the ordinance is an enhanced background check. Because an enhanced background check includes the surrendering of all your medical privacy to your records. It's totally surrendered as soon as you go to apply to purchase a semi-automatic handgun or a semi-automatic rifle, what they're calling a semi-automatic assault rifle. And the state can create a database. They may purge the information, but do you really think once they get a hold of your medical records that they're safe? I mean, it's bad enough as it is right now with the electronic systems and people hacking everything they can. But when it comes to the databases of the state, they have proven that they cannot be trusted. I received a notice some time ago that as a veteran, all my records, somebody hacked them and got them. Again, you will lose this enhanced background check. After all, you know, we all are for wanting to know that people that have a firearm are decent folks, right? Who's going to draw the line? Government? I saw something today just before I left to come here. It said, in Facebook we trust. Wow. I don't know about you all, but I like to shoot. I like to have a good time with firearms, and people don't seem to realize that the 99.9% plus of all firearms ever produced and all ammunition ever produced will never be used in a violent manner or towards anybody in that way. Most of it's shot at places like Kitsap Rifle and Revolver Club when it was open. We didn't have an injunction hanging over us. This is an all-out assault, folks. And if you're not engaged, I've heard people say, well, are you willing to go to war over this? If you don't realize that we're in a war right now and you're not engaged, then you're going to be just as useful if it really does get to that point. Folks have got to get busy because the consequences are far too dire. Training, you must end up with some training. As an instructor, I agree, you need training. But you shouldn't have to have a mandated government course to exercise a right. Kitsap Rifle and Revolver Club has offered classes for free. People can have, there's no lack of an ability to train. But every time that organizations like ours, the NRA and others, have tried to go into the schools to get firearm safety training there, we are shut down. And yet your governor, Jay Inslee, just recently decided he wasn't going to sign the certificates for the governor's 20 match, which is a big competitive bullseye match that supports law enforcement. He was not going to sign those certificates because it's an NRA-sponsored event, and the NRA has done nothing about common sense gun legislation, according to you. A lot of this 1639 was worked on, I would be willing to bet, with your tax dollars, from our AG's office, Bob Ferguson, Sideshow Bob. You want to get in and read your state attorney general website about how he wanted and tried to sponsor assault weapons legislation. They've been pushing hard for this, and they're going to get it if people don't get active. I've seen here where people have said that there's a 10-day waiting period. Folks, it is a 10 business day waiting period. You're looking at 2 weeks plus. Okay, does it make a whole lot of a difference? It could, especially on a holiday. There is mandated security for your firearm. You have to lock it up. And I believe that in some cases, some people should have those options to lock up their firearm. But folks, like we argued back when it was no on 676 30 years ago, trigger locks only, and in many cases, provide a false sense of security. And the only thing that a lock does of any type is buy you time, potentially. But who's going to come in and check? Who's going to come in and check your house to see if you're locking it up right? And if your gun is stolen, now the burden is on you to prove that you knew or should have reasonably known, and that's an interesting phrase in there. You should have reasonably known. Reasonable to who? I've seen a lot of unreasonable people in our government systems here locally. Again, there are some great people involved. I hate seeing stuff like this as well. But who's going to make that decision? You will be guilty of community endangerment if somebody steals your firearm and then goes to hurt somebody else with it. How's that? You can't just lock your doors anymore. You're going to have some sort of extra device. Folks, before I hand this over to Tyler, I have found that to be a good instructor, you need to relate the unknown to something that is known. And we need to get people involved in voting no on this thing. You know what? They don't have firearms. They don't understand them. In fact, it kind of scares them to think about them to a degree because, you know, I'm a little nervous. Well, one of the best examples you can use, because most everybody drives a car. You talk about, you know, the first time you drove a car, a little white knuckle, too much brake, not enough. You know, a little scary. But now everybody here, if you were driving your car and heading home, and a little ball came out in the road in front of you, and a little girl behind it, do you have to think about where that brake pedal is for your foot to get there? No, because you've done it over and over again. Going out and practicing with a firearm is the same way. The more you handle it, the more you utilize it, you don't even have to think about where the safety's at. Your fingers, your thumb knows where it's at. You don't have to think about where the muzzle's at. You know, and for those of you that aren't familiar with firearms, a muzzle, a muzzle of a dog, that's that front pointy end, it's got teeth and it can bite you. Okay, all firearms have a muzzle. That's that front pointy end, and it's got teeth and it can bite you. You use that illustration with anybody that doesn't know anything about firearms and they'll always remember what the muzzle is. So when you talk to your neighbors, I've been thinking about this hard, you know, Have you heard about the restrictions and back to have a car with an automatic transmission? After all, you know how dangerous those things are? Oh man, people have been in wrecks with them. Have you heard about that? People killed driving cars with automatic transmissions? They're going to do background checks on those. Your mental health records before you can have one. And when people go that
to agree with.
and when they say that's just absolutely ridiculous, yes it is. And so is 1639. Please, I implore you, vote no on 1639, and each one of you go get 10 people that will, not that you just tell, but that will tell you, I will vote no on 1639, and go find 10 more. Thank you.
You know, you're talking about the white knuckle experience driving a car for the first time. I remember the other not so pleasing experience of trying to get out of first on a hill for the first time. I think I've seen a meme circling around
You
before.
still smell the clutch?
Oh yeah! There's a meme going around every once in a while that says, you know, we could cripple an entire generation if we switch back to cursive writing and manual transmissions. I think we could. So what I'm going to speak to you is, if you don't know who I am, my name is Tyler Miller. I sponsor Initiative 1621 to a stunning failure to not make the ballot this year. That initiative, the whole purpose of that was to simply enable concealed carry in public schools as a method of both securing our schools, but also as just a basic right of self-defense. My rights don't end just because I go onto a certain piece of property. I started SecureSchoolChoice.org to back that initiative. We still have it going because we are going to make another attempt this coming year. And I also got another project going on that I'll tell you about towards the end. What I'd like to talk to you about 1639 is some of the unintended consequences that this initiative, if it passes, is going to produce. One of the big things, this made-up term, assault rifle, assault weapon. We know it's a made-up term, right? There's no distinguishing characteristic of an assault weapon. What is an assault rifle? Describe it. You can't get a description of it. Every description that you either get somebody talking about automatic weapons, which are already illegal, or you get some, you know, oh, it looks scary, all right? Initiative 1639 is going to codify in law for the very first time this term, assault rifle, assault weapon. It is going to take a chink out of their armor that up till now has been a very effective weapon in our ability to combat by pointing out that there is no definition of assault rifle. This initiative, if it becomes law, makes that definition a matter of law and with the authority of law. We can't let that happen because you really honestly seriously think that it's going to stay that narrow of a definition. First of all, do you know what that applies to? Do you know what this is going to apply to? Every semi-automatic rifle. Every single semi-automatic rifle that's out there. So your little plunking gun, your Olympic sport, you know, for the biathlon, we can't have Olympic athletes train. They can't own their own weapon to train for an Olympic event, for God's sakes. How asinine is this? Once it's there, it's never going to be removed. Once that definition makes it into law, it will never, ever be removed. It won't be removed through an initiative process. It won't be removed by an action of the state legislature. The courts will defend it, protect it vigorously. It will be there forever. We can't let that happen. And it is designed to be as all-encompassing as possible. Like I said, it will not remain semi-automatic weapons only. It will eventually apply to all firearms. This is a step in a very well planned out and a very well advertised. They don't hide it anymore. Their objective is to eliminate firearms in society. Their objective is to eliminate your right to own and possess a firearm, and their objective is to eliminate firearms from society in mass. And this is a very critical step for them because it puts into law a mechanism and a precedence by which they will achieve this. Let's talk about second-class citizenship. Who remembers the left always, you know, crying about second-class citizenship, right? You know, they talk about that with minority rights all the time, you know, oh, we don't want second-class citizens. This initiative creates second-class citizens. You know who they are? 18 to 20-year-olds. They are inherently second-class citizens for the very first time in American history, even going back to segregation. will say as a matter of law that you are not a full citizen when you reach the age of majority. We have to appreciate the impact of that. All right? Imagine if that same principle were applied to other rights that we have. Imagine if that same principle were applied to, and you know what? Meet leftists on their own ground. 18 to 20-year-olds can't have an abortion. You're not competent. You're unstable. It's too dangerous. You can't make that kind of decision. See how they respond to that? I don't think they'd be very favorable to that. Let's talk about some of the things that you can do at 18. Vote. Join the military. If you're a guy, you have to be registered for selective service. You can buy tobacco. You can work full-time. You can pay taxes. You can have consensual sexual activity. You are responsible for your independent finances, such as owning a checking account, establishing an independent credit, assumption of debt. In 48 states, you can get married. I actually was surprised about that. There's actually 2 states, one where you have to be 19, and I think Mississippi, you have to be 21 to get married without parental consent. And most importantly, at 18, everywhere in this nation, you are responsible before the law. You are fully responsible for all of your actions before the law. That makes you a peer. And if you're a peer, what does that mean? Civics Lessons 101. If you're a peer, what does that give me the power to do?
Sit on a jury.
Sit on a jury. I can sit in judgment on you. I can sit in judgment on you and I can sentence you to life in prison. But I can't own a gun. Why do I bring this up? These are points that we can talk about with people. Every single aspect that Mark's talked about, and the cards that we have here, Jeremy back there has these to pass out. These are bullet points about what is wrong with this initiative and all the horrible, rotten things that are going to happen as a result of if this passes. In many ways, though, we're preaching to the choir. You know, if you're involved in any of the gun rights forums online, if you're doing social media, if you're involved in the gun community in any way, shape, or form, you're preaching to the choir on all this stuff. We need to reach people who are going to otherwise vote yes or not vote. And one of the ways that we can reach them is go over how horribly constructed this initiative came about. The illegal way that it appears on the ballot, the court process that it went through, the horrible rulings that came out of it, and one good one. I gotta give Judge Dixon down in Thurston County incredible applause for having the nerve to actually follow the law in his ruling. I know, it's scandalous. Bring that up with people when you talk to them. Talk to them about the critical nature of the initiative process and the danger of allowing this to pass, what it does to it. You're basically saying the initiative process no longer matters. And they're going to say, well, what are you talking about? Because they didn't follow the initiative process. They did not follow the law with respect to the initiative process. They flouted the law. They completely ignored it. They did not provide a true and correct copy of the initiative on the back of the petitions. They said, well, screw it, we don't need to. It's about safety, damn it! Don't you care? And that's basically how they went about it. And knowing that they couldn't really get obviously the thing that they needed that way, they spent $4 million on petition gatherers to get the signatures that they needed. Some were getting upwards of $9, $10 a signature from people coming in from out of state, showing up and gathering the signatures, lying in the process. I've got it on video. You want to go to my Facebook page and check out all the videos I've got of these people lying about what is in the initiative. They place it right next to the grocery tax initiative, and they place it right next to the $30 towns initiative, so that it can look like it's something other than what it is, because they know if they actually explain what it does, no one in their right mind would actually sign on to it. Except Seattle. So let's imagine if the broader implications of this were applied to other rights. You have to pass a literacy test to express your First Amendment rights. That's what this does. It requires you to take a firearm safety course, right? You have to pass a test in order to exercise your right. So if this is First Amendment, you have to pass a literacy test, which people need anyway, but let's put that on to the side for a second. You have to pay an annual fee, which I call a tax. If you want to maintain that right, you'd have to be periodically retested, and you'd have to pay a fee associated with that. I kind of went out of order because I talked about the damage to the initiative process before that. But anyway, I'll get back to the damage to the initiative process this causes. Now, this point has coming up in the actions that Secretary Wyman took involved in the initiative process, and her decision to her decision to place it on the ballot, certify it, and then let it go to the court system. She should have rejected it outright. Her interpretation of the statute and then her actions in response to that were completely and wholly outside the law. But the point is that if you want to protect the initiative process, you can't allow this sort of lawlessness to pass. We just can't. And the only way we can do that is getting out and getting people to vote, getting everyone you know that would vote no, get them out, make sure they get their ballot, make sure that they fill out their ballot. And I hate to say this, but make sure that they put their ballot in the mail. You have no idea how many people, oh, it got lost in my car. Or, hell, my ballot, I did a mea culpa about this with the primary. My ballot sat on my little half wall in the kitchen for about 4 days before it finally got in my car, and then it sat in my car for another 5 days before it ended up in the mailbox. We do this, it's human nature. One of the things I'm going to do as a PCO down in Gorst area is I'm going to actually have an election day. I'm going to have a polling place. I'm going to try and set up a deal with Wigwam. I'm going to have some, food, drinks, and it's going to be a polling place. And you can drop off your ballot with me, and I'll make sure that it gets in on time. And I'm going to have the I voted sticker. You realize how many people want the damn I voted sticker? And they miss it. Yeah, see, they miss it. Because if we don't take these steps, every single one of us, PCOs all the way through to just every single person, make sure people not only vote, but make sure that they turn in their ballot. For the people who you encounter who might be yeses, who might be on the fence or not otherwise, point out how disastrous this initiative, even if they back every idea that's on it, it was brought about in the most illegal and horrible way, and it's going to have ramifications that they cannot possibly foresee. This is a law, these are the type of law that rightly, properly belong in the legislative process, not the initiative process, not the way that it's being run, not the way that it's currently administered in our state. I'm a big fan of the initiative process. I tried doing my own initiative this year. I'm going to be trying it again next year. The other organization, I'm going to wrap up by plugging my other organization, is called the Washington Convention. And it speaks directly to some of the problems that we see emanating out of 1639, the illegal way it came about. The idea of the Washington Convention is, it is modeled ideally on the 1787 Constitutional Convention, which of course they didn't call it Constitutional Convention when they had it. It was basically just a get-together of the states to talk about the problems. That's what this is going to be. It's going to be a get-together of the counties of Washington State to talk about the problems, the specific problems, and propose and debate solutions. So it's a work in progress. Check it out on Facebook if you get a chance. And with that, I'll say I'm done.
Okay, now we're going to do some Q&A, and this is how we're going to do it tonight. Board member Nick Baird in the back. Nick, would you come up front? Not that people don't know what you look like by now, but
they want to see me.
That's right. Want to be able to see you. For the sake of people who have hard of hearing, and we want to control the flow of the questions, please raise your hand. Nick will give you the mic, ask the question, and we'll get an answer. And we'll just move this along nicely, okay?
Yes, my name is Rob Doherty. I'm from Olalla, Washington. And I'd just like to know, can you name any of the main contributors who are contributing to this? Is it Bill Gates or who is it?
We didn't even touch on that. I can't believe that. All right, so 80% of the funding, if not more, has come from 4 people. Paul Allen, your wonderful Seahawks owner, his wife. What's Anauer's name? What is it? Nick Anauer and his wife. 4 people. Nearly, well, at this point, nearly $6 million total. And they've spent $4 million of that just to get the signatures to get this on the ballot.
You will not find Seahawks paraphernalia in my home. Let me read something to you while if you got a question. Section 7 specifically, this isn't our take on it, this is what it says. A signed application to purchase a pistol or semi-automatic assault rifle shall constitute a waiver of confidentiality and written request that the healthcare authority, mental health institutions, and other healthcare facilities release to an inquiring court or law enforcement agency relevant information to the applicant's eligibility to purchase a pistol or semi-automatic assault rifle. What's interesting is you go into the next section, and now this is a mandate to healthcare facilities. The healthcare authority, mental health institutions, and other healthcare facilities shall, upon written request of a court, law enforcement agency, or the state. So now the state can just get in there and request your medical information because you've signed a waiver and supply such information as relevant.
What about
Oh, I just get the mic over. I just want to speak on that real quick. So I'm a recovering alcoholic. I've got almost 8 years of sobriety under my belt. But just remember, alcoholism is still a mental illness. Just put that out there. If you think that the mental aspect or the health aspect doesn't apply to you,
I just want, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
What about HIPAA? Do you know what the HIPAA is? That they're not supposed to release any information at all.
this abrogates that provision of law, and you surrender all of your HIPAA rights upon application to purchase the firearm. Even if it ends up being denied and you end up not walking out with that firearm, you have forever surrendered your rights to the privacy of that information.
Just a quick question, if I could, please. Well, one comment too, you mentioned alcoholism. Under federal law, you can't possess a firearm if you are using cannabis to federal law. So just to point out to your friends and neighbors that might be medical marijuana users, you will forever lose your rights to a firearm, and not only in this state but federally, because your private medical information will become public. My kind of quasi question, this may be beyond the scope of either one of you guys. My understanding is I cannot be compelled to sign my rights away. Let's say the worst happens and 1639 does pass. What's going to happen if when I sign my form, I say I refuse to release my medical information? I refuse to surrender my rights. Does anybody have any expertise as to what?
You will not walk out of that store with a firearm.
Here's typically what they've done, especially what I have experienced in 10 years we owned a gun shop. We would have people come in and would ask about having something done during the assault weapons ban to a rifle, let's say. Can you put a flash hider on this? And they would go to shops and would tell them, oh no, I can't do that, it's illegal. It wasn't illegal for the citizen, it was illegal for the gun shop. See, what they're doing is they regulate those that are licensed where they have them under their thumb. You can, all rights reserved, refuse to answer under threat, duress, and coercion, and you turn your signature, instead of a signature of contract, it's a signature of convenience. Yes, that's me. Now again, the dealer's not going to release the firearm to you because he's under obligation. And I don't know too many firearms dealers that are willing to go to that point. They're just going to say, hey man, just that's what you have to do. It's unfortunate, but people have been doing that when it came to traffic tickets and building permits and all of this other junk. It's too little to fight. I'd have to take a day off work and do this and now it's snowballed to the point now where it's virtually out of control. If you refuse, or let's say you do everything the way they're supposed to do, one of the other things I want to point out here, you do it all right. You give them all that information. They could still deny you. They could cost you dearly. Not being able to get a firearm for someone that's been threatened, etc. But guess what? They're immune from liability. Everything they do, if they release your information when they shouldn't, if they deny you your ability to get a firearm, they're immune. It doesn't matter how much it may damage somebody else. The state is immune in this process.
And it's also, you have to understand this is going to apply to private transactions as well, because just like 594 did, this is extending those provisions where every single private transaction that occurs has to go to a dealer to get ratified, signed off on, registered. So the registry process, if you think that you're going to avoid signing away your HIPAA rights or any of that by going to a private transaction, not if you're going to follow the law. If you're going to be in compliance with the law, you will sign these rights away. That's how it will be.
Good afternoon, my name is Jeremy Lynn. I want to touch base on your question. 1,167 donors for 1639. 941 of them came out of the state of Washington. They put over $4.3 million into the PDC fund, which is public information. You can go and see who donated that, whose bank accounts they came out of. So if you want to go find out, you can get right online, check it out. Another thing I want to touch base on, everybody knows what this is, right? This is our Constitution. If you believe in this Constitution, you absolutely have to vote no on this initiative. It has to be shut down. You have to educate your neighbors. You have to educate everybody. I don't care what it takes. If you got to spin your wheels, drive around, call me. I don't care. I'll bring these out. Whatever we got to do. I'm probably one of the youngest people in this room, and this is very important to me. This is important for my family, my kids, the next generations. We need you guys to step up and help us conquer this. We can't allow this to happen. Not in the state of Washington, not anywhere in this country. You guys gotta vote no. And if you've got questions about this, I would love to go into this even more extensively, because required extensive training to purchase and possess firearms? How much training? How expensive is that gonna be? $10,000? $50,000? It's unlimited. There's no limits to this initiative.
That actually reminds me about a comment that was in one of the discussion posts on Facebook, and someone asked about, well, what happens if a jurisdiction, who gets to decide what these requirements are and everything? The way that I actually see this happening is that jurisdictions, depending on where you're at, are simply not going to offer it. They're not going to offer it, and they're going to make laws to prohibit people who are capable in the private sector. They're going to make it so that they can't offer it either. And they're going to basically make it so that it's impossible to obtain the requisite training, so you'll never be able to purchase your firearm. Look at how the issues are happening in the state, and tell me that I'm wrong. Maybe in this county.
I just have a question, and I understand, I read this pro-con paper, and I understand, and you verified it for me, that if my gun is somehow taken out of my home and used by a criminal, that I will be liable because it's registered in my name. And then you mentioned what I would be charged with, and I was trying to listen and did not catch that. Can you give me that again? I need ammunition for my children who are going to vote yes.
Community endangerment. Community endangerment. You are putting your neighbors in danger.
Community endangerment is what I would be charged with.
That's like the basic charge that you're going to get. Now, if they come back and they can somehow show that you were negligent in the way that you store your firearm, because remember, they don't define what a safe method of storage is.
Exactly.
So they're going to leave that ambiguous, and if they come back and they decide that you're negligent in some way, or that you should have, or that you knew the person, you should have known that you had to take extra precautions, any way, shape, or form, you will then be charged as an accessory, most likely, to whatever crime is committed. So understand that the community endangerment charge is going to be a minimum charge that is going to be level on people, and they will take, depending on the prosecutor in the county, they will take every opportunity to ramp that up as they can.
Thank you.
Because you bad gun owners need to be taught a lesson.
And the way that they talk about when it was stolen from you, if you have a firearm that's stolen from you, you have to report it within 5 days. Within 5 days. You know what, there's times I've misplaced my car keys longer than that. You know? Now, it's, how are they going to determine this? It says, within 5 days of the time the victim of the unlawful entry knew or reasonably should have known. Who gets to determine what's reasonably should have? Again, it's absolutely insanity for the way that they're trying to put this over on them.
There's a website, I think the NRA put it together. It's called www. Initiative 1639, one word, .org. It's got also, they send you emails, and there's a how to get involved. They'll send you a package of those things. And there's places where you can get involved. Phone booths, phone direct. And then they're, even at the fair that's going on, they have a booth there. So this is the time to do it.
I'll remind you that these are not free. They will not send these to you for free. We pay for these.
Okay,
The
how much are
citizens
they?
pay for it. Yeah, NRA has
It's worth
done
it.
zero funding to promote this.
We
in
actually have
Washington
a
State.
question over here.
Okay.
Thank you. Brian Wadley from, I guess it's on. Have to hold it.
But anyway, so it sounds like some of this has got a lot to do with prior restraint on our freedoms here. So if I take a trip to Wanderers Ferry or down to Portland, and can I then legally bring something back across state lines? Or what about buying ammunition in the state without declaring having had a weapon to use that?
Well, currently, there's no law or even a proposal to register ammunition here or make signature like California just did. In California, I think that goes into effect here sometime very soon, where you'll have to sign for ammunition that you're ordering. Here's something that's really important to keep in mind, folks. Just, again, very basic civics, but civics is not taught in school. We talk about the law, and if you follow the law is the Constitution. That is the supreme law of the land. Article 6, paragraph 2 says this Constitution and laws made pursuant thereto shall be the supreme law of the land. Laws made pursuant thereto. So if it violates your rights, and you just have to know what your rights are, it's not law. And the Supreme Court has noted that if something is in violation of the Constitution, then it is not law ab initio. It means that it never was law. You don't have to wait till it's declared not to be law. I carry a firearm wherever I go within the borders of the United States, because you know what? I have a right to bear arms that shall. Shall is an imperative word that carries with it the application of absolute certainty. Shall not be impaired. Or infringed, the state Constitution says shall not be impaired. But it's very, very clear. You have that right. When these come in and tell you, oh, well, now you can't, guess what? They're not law. It's a hoax that they're trying to pull on everybody. And unless people stand up, and most people won't, too many people just, I don't know. We've heard this. Kitsap Rifle and Revolver Club, how many know about the gun club, okay? And how the gun club has, under court order, now 2 court orders, where we can't discharge a firearm. Guess what? We're not the only one. Sheridan Park Center, gone forever. Kingston Junior Marksman Club, gone forever. Shelton Rifle and Pistol Club, gone forever. Fort Discovery, gone forever this last year. And Jefferson County is now, they're squirming up there, folks. The Jefferson County range, and many of our people go up there now because they don't like the fact that we will teach you how to draw from a holster. We will teach you how to shoot if you've fallen on the ground, laying on your right side or your left side, or on your back or straight forward. We will teach you how to use a firearm to defend yourself and clear your home. The county doesn't like that. We were the only range left in the state that was doing that. And people just waiting because they tried to make it, well, it's that thing with Marcus Carter and Russ Hauge, it's this vendetta thing. It wasn't about me, it never was. It was about the gun clubs. They wanted Kitsap Rifle and Revolver Club gone in 1993. They pushed for it back then. They couldn't get it, they came after me. They couldn't get me, although, by the way, I'm going to trial November 5th, still 19 years later, after they took a rifle of mine. But now, then they sued the gun club and named my wife as one of the parties. They wanted us so badly to just give up and walk away. But God has blessed me with 8 beautiful grandkids. And every time I look at them, I can do nothing more but step forward. And we have to. 1639 is bad, but this isn't the start of it. It's been going for a long time now.
And it's not going to be the end of it.
You've been talking procurement here. What happens, I'm getting older and I'll probably hand my guns out to my nephew. What's this going to do to that?
He already owns them, right?
So to address that point and to kind of speak more to the question that you asked. So currently the way the law is, all handgun purchases are registered in a national database, all right? So when you purchase your handgun, there's going to be a transaction on that that's going to follow you, and that serial number is going to be attached to you as long as you own that firearm. And if you legally sell it, then that paperwork has to be filed. So what this really is talking about is how is this going to affect rifles and the way it works. Because I inherited 2 rifles from my father-in-law when he passed in Massachusetts. And I was thrilled to find out that I didn't have to tell the state of Washington a damn thing about, inheriting those firearms, and I'm never going to. Actually 3 firearms. I got a shotgun, a hunting rifle, and a little Mauser 98. Anyway, so the Mauser? Yeah, okay, Mauser 98. Anyway, it's nice because it's got the Weimar Republic and Third Reich stamps on it. It's a rare one. Anyway, so as far as I know, this initiative is not going to substantively change those laws, but don't quote me on that.
I've got it right here. It says a transfer between immediate family members, which for this subsection shall be limited to spouses, domestic partners, parents, parents-in-law, children, siblings, siblings-in-law, grandparents, grandchildren, nieces, nephews, first cousins, aunts, uncles. That is a bona fide gift or loan, and that had to do with, again, the transfer aspects of it, and on sales and transfers. So at this point, when you're giving it, from what I read here, they're not changing that portion. That's an existing portion of state law because of 594. And it was one of the big pushbacks. At that time, it would have kept me from giving a gun, handing one to my wife even when they were first trying to draft the thing. So it appears that that aspect of it wouldn't be affected at this point.
But what it does tell you to do is that when you do transfer those, they better have a lock on them. Because if it doesn't have a lock on it, you transfer it, then you're violating the law. Just to touch on a couple things that was brought up. So first of all, as far as the county goes and the way that the county is working, you are going to, coming up in 2020, you are going to have options for county commissioner spots. Just wink, wink, nod, nod. There's a couple of us that have been talking about it, and we are going to take position 2 back. So just keep that on the horizon. That's something that that it's already been talked about, and we've already got at least 3 people that I know are going to be making a very hard push for that. And that's what we need to do. We need to win this through elections. Elections matter at every single level. And this election matters, I'll say the hyperbole. This is the most, consequential election of our past because it's the next one that we have. And then the one after that will be the most consequential. And one after that, and one after that. Participatory politics is a requirement of our republic, or we lose it.
Yes, I'd like to say thank you to both of you for all the information that you've given us tonight. And I would like to mention I am a life member of the Washington Arms Collectors, the WAC. Pretty big organization. I would encourage everyone to join. The more people you have in an organization, the more powerful you are. So this past 6 months or so, their monthly magazines have had a lot about this initiative 1639. I would encourage you to go on the website for the Washington Arms Collectors and look at what they have to say about it. Nothing good to say about it, of course, but I just encourage you to take a look at their website and possibly join the Washington Arms Collectors. I go to their gun shows about 3 or 4 times a year. They have one just about every month, either at the Shell Fairgrounds or up in Monroe, at the fairgrounds up there. So that's, thank you very much for all your information tonight.
Very well. The other thing I wanted to mention too is the idea of activism, and it's been brought up a couple times. The Constitution is the supreme law of the land. But one of the things that you have to understand is there are consequences for your actions. I am right here with Marcus. I carry absolutely everywhere I go in this country because I believe it is my right to do so. Now, I don't flaunt it. If I go to California on a business trip, I'm still concealed carrying, and I'm a little bit more cautious, with just making sure my pants extra baggy and my profiling at all, because I don't want to suffer the consequences. But I do so knowing full well that I'm going to have to go through a process. To assert my constitutional rights, I'm going to have to go through a process. That's not a process that everyone's willing to go through. And when you think about your rights and you think about what's going on, you need to start reevaluating that position of how much are your principles really your principles? How much are you willing to fight for them? And fighting takes on all sorts of different forms. Some people have the gift of writing, some people have the gift of oration, some people have the gift of money. They just have the money to spread around, and there's nothing wrong with that, as long as you're backing principles that you also believe in. As far as getting in the fight and knowing what you're doing, make sure that you understand the full ramifications of what you're going to be doing. Don't go out and just hoot and holler because, oh, it's my right to hoot and holler. Have some substance behind it. Let's not be the Antifa crowd. Let's not be the ones who get paid to hoot and holler. Let's do it because our principles dictate that we have to.
And if you want to hear a little bit more about 1639, the NRA is holding meetings all over the state of Washington. They will be holding a meeting on Tuesday, October the 2nd at the Eagle's Nest, which is over at the fairgrounds in Bremerton, 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m.
Any other questions?
Let me throw out one thing while Johnny's coming up here. I just ran across, they are actually striking from the law. When you purchase a firearm, you're supposed to get a copy of a book from, or get a permit, etc., a pamphlet on legal limits and the use of firearms and firearm safety. That used to include specifically informing you that local laws and ordinances are preempted by state law. And they're totally eliminating that so that you don't know. Of course, Kitsap Rifle Revolver Club just argued on state preemption, and they're acting with, again, Sideshow Bob up down there as the AG. Again, state preemption doesn't mean anything. Does everybody know what state preemption basically means? The entire field of firearms is controlled by state law. So that when you go from here into Tacoma, you don't have to worry that a local agency is going to say, oh, by the way, we've banned all semi-automatic pistols. Well, wait a minute, that's what I carry, and I travel through Tacoma, now I'm breaking the law? Well, no, the state has a preemption clause that says that they control the entire field of firearms, sales, possession, control, discharge, that's shooting ranges, and yet that's ignored, and they're now wanting to eliminate that from your mindset so you don't know that information in the future.
Ladies and gentlemen, Marcus Carter and Heidi. I'm going to just do a quick unofficial straw poll. Now, I should do this by these little secret ballots, but I'm feeling a little salty tonight about it.
I want to see where you all stand.
And so, on a consensus kind of voice thing, can I count on you to vote no on this initiative? All those voting no, say nay. Nay. Now, do I dare ask if anybody's going to vote yes? But I I appreciate your attention, some really good questions, and I appreciate your courtesy to our speakers tonight. Mary Lou's wagging her finger here, so I don't know what she's trying to say.
I just wanted to say, I was on Facebook today and I saw something very, very disturbing. There were Mexican people or South American people in army fatigues carrying great big backpacks and rifles. And it's a steady stream, and there's, I guess the cameras that were on them were hidden cameras. I don't know if it was the farmer or the government that was watching them. This is a steady stream of foreigners invading our country with arms, and our people are trying to disarm us. That just doesn't make sense to me. And I think we should probably think about trying to get the government to put some military on that borderline. And
Well, I think we'll remain strong advocates of national security and strong border controls. How's that? That's a good way